Imagine driving your family through a blizzard, your fuel gauge kissing empty, the temperature outside dropping to 19 degrees, and every tow company you call tells you the same thing. It's going to cost you thousands of dollars, and they might not even be able to get to you tonight. Now imagine a truck pulling up, a man jumping out, and after fighting through ice and snow for hours to drag your car back to safety, he looks you in the eye and says, "I'm not taking your money." That's not a feel-good movie. That actually happened. Multiple times. On purpose, and the man doing it? He turned that philosophy, giving everything away for free, into a multimillion-dollar business empire worth somewhere between $5 and $8 million by 2026. His name is Rick Murphy, and the story of how he got there is one of the most jaw-dropping entrepreneurial journeys you will ever hear. Because it breaks every single rule people tell you about building a business. This is the full, unfiltered story of Murphy's Diesel. From a cramped toy hauler parked on a dusty lot in Kingman, Arizona, to one of the most recognized heavy recovery operations in the American Southwest. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you are going to rethink everything you thought you knew about money, generosity, and what it actually takes to build something that lasts. To understand Rick Murphy, you have to go back further than Rick Murphy. Back in the mid-1960s, his grandfather was already running heavy wreckers through the rugged backcountry of northern Arizona. This was not glamorous work. Northern Arizona showed zero mercy to machines and even less to the men who operated them. The terrain was brutal, the heat was unforgiving, and the loads were enormous. But Rick's grandfather did it anyway, hauling broken equipment out of country where most people wouldn't even dare to drive. Then the business passed to Rick's father in the 1980s. By then, years of brutal, punishing work had taken a serious toll. Heavy towing had a way of grinding people down. Physically, financially, emotionally. Rick's dad made a calculated decision to step away from the heavy wreckers. He shifted into lighter-duty towing, opened a mechanic shop, and moved into tire sales in Ash Fork. It was a smarter, safer life. But it meant closing a door. Rick grew up in the shadow of those stories. He heard about a legendary 1960s Mack truck his grandfather had fitted with a homemade Holmes 750 wrecker, a machine built before computers took over, back when everything came down to raw weight, thick steel, and pure nerve. That truck had groaned under impossible loads, and even as a young boy, before he was old enough to hold a driver's license, Rick already knew the sound of a diesel engine being pushed to its absolute limit. He loved it. That kind of upbringing shapes a person in ways that are hard to explain. While other kids his age were outside playing ball or riding bikes around the neighborhood, Rick was standing inside garages, staring at engines and listening, actually listening, to the sounds machines made under stress. Arizona was hard on vehicles. The heat cooked components. The terrain shook everything apart. Nothing lasted easily out there, and that meant mechanical failure was part of everyday life. By around age 12. Rick was already tearing into engines with genuine purpose. This wasn't a hobby. This wasn't a phase. He was hunting for weak spots before they became disasters. By 14, he could diagnose turbo lag on old Mack trucks on his own. As a teenager in the late 1980s and into the early 1990s, he was pulling engines apart piece by piece, studying worn components, tracing failures back to their source. Failed O-rings. Cracked cylinder heads. Overboost problems. Fuel systems quietly turning into time bombs. He didn't want to patch something just long enough to get it down the road. He wanted to rebuild it so it would never fail the same way again. That obsession found its sharpest focus when he zeroed in on Ford's 7.3-liter Power-Stroke diesel engine, the power plant that ruled heavy-duty pickups from 1994 to 2003. A lot of mechanics loved that engine. Rick loved it too. But he also knew every single one of its bad habits. He knew the injectors could stick. He knew the intercooler boots could blow under boost. He knew the oil cooler issues that snowballed into much larger failures. More importantly, he knew exactly how to fix all of it properly, not temporarily. By around the year 2000, Rick was working on more than 50 local trucks per year and reading Power-Stroke problems at a level that even franchise dealerships often couldn't match, but the family business had already moved away from heavy towing. And that unfulfilled gravitational pull toward bigger wrecks, heavier machines, more impossible jobs, never left him alone. He kept staring at that closed door. Around 2005 or 2006, after high school, Rick made a move that would change everything. He left Arizona and headed straight to Texas, into the oil fields around Midland, Odessa, where easy work simply did not exist and where nobody cared how tired you were. For the next several years, Rick lived in a world that would break most people. He was hauling massive RGN trailers carrying wind turbine blades stretching up to 186 feet long. He was moving crane booms, oil tanks, compressor skids, and equipment so heavy that a single miscalculation could cost someone their life. He worked around 350-ton hydraulic cranes, rigging under live tension where a cable snap could end things in an instant. He endured desert heat climbing past 110 degrees during the day and freezing nights that wrecked hydraulic systems without warning. Breakdowns didn't happen in safe, controlled environments. They happened mid-haul, on unstable ground, under enormous financial and physical pressure, with no backup coming. Some nights stretched into 12-hour re-rigs with no real sleep and no relief. Friends got crushed by pinch points. Failures turned deadly. Rick saw what that kind of work did to men over time. It burned something permanent into him, a respect for risk, a hatred of careless cutting of corners, and an absolute obsession with doing things right the first time. But the oil fields also gave him an education that no ordinary shop ever could have provided. He learned what happened when hydraulic systems locked up under thousands of psi. He watched electrical failures destroy expensive modules in seconds. He saw the chaos created by failed welds, bad rigging, overloaded equipment, and dishonest billing practices. He worked alongside bosses who cared more about their own profit than the safety or fair pay of their crews. He watched people get charged insane amounts of money for vague, questionable work and explanations that made no sense that he filed all of it away. Every corrupt invoice. Every shady broker. Every lie told to a customer who didn't know any better. And he decided, quietly but permanently, that when he built something of his own, it was going to be the opposite of everything he had just witnessed. Around 2010, Rick made his way back to Arizona. He didn't come home empty-handed. He brought oilfield-level skills, a deeply hardened work ethic, a sharp eye for dishonesty, and a clear vision of the kind of business he wanted to build. His dad still had reservations. He had lived through the brutal side of heavy towing. He had stepped away for good reasons and watched the industry chew through good men. When Rick started moving back toward that world, the message was clear. Heavy towing had already taken enough from one generation of the Murphy family. Rick heard every word. And then he pushed ahead anyway. In 2014, Rick and his wife Nikki launched Murphy's Diesel in Kingman, Arizona. No investors. No safety net. No fallback position. What they had was Rick's mechanical knowledge, Nikki's operational grit, and a shared willingness to live harder than most people would ever voluntarily accept. For 3 straight years, from 2014 all the way through 2017, they lived inside a cramped toy hauler trailer parked directly on the shop lot. There was no separation between their work life and their home life. Every single dollar that came in had somewhere it needed to go immediately. Tools, parts, shop expenses, fuel. If revenue slowed down for even a week, they felt it in a very real and immediate way. Kingman sat along the I-40 corridor, and trucks broke down there constantly. Wrecks were regular. But the market was already crowded with established shops that had long-standing accounts and loyal customer bases. Rick was the outsider. Most new businesses in that position would have tried to win by undercutting prices or chasing the easy, low-risk jobs. Rick went the opposite direction. He took on the work other shops avoided. And he built trust through a method that sounds almost too simple. He showed people exactly what had gone wrong. That if a gasket cracked, he showed the customer the cracked gasket. If a piston was damaged, he pointed to the damage and explained it in plain language. If a specific component had caused the breakdown, he walked the customer through why it failed and what fixing it properly actually required. No mystery invoices. No hiding behind industry jargon. No charging people for work they didn't understand. In a world where truck owners had grown accustomed to vague quotes and expensive surprises, Rick's approach hit differently. Customers could see the damage with their own eyes. They understood exactly what they were paying for. That transparency turned first-time customers into loyal, repeat customers. And those repeat customers became people who told every trucker and driver they knew, if you need honest diesel work in northern Arizona, go to Kingman. Nikki was never just a supporting role in this story. She was operational and essential from day one, managing calls, handling finances, coordinating logistics, keeping the business alive through the periods when the pressure was real and the margin for error was nearly zero. Without her, Murphy's Diesel doesn't survive those first brutal years. And then Rick made the decision that most people in the towing industry thought was outright suicidal. He started offering free off-road recoveries, not occasional. Not as a marketing stunt. As an actual business practice, built into how Murphy's Diesel operated. Off-road recoveries are expensive, dangerous, time-consuming, and logistically complicated. Other tow companies avoided them or charged premium rates precisely because they were so difficult. And here was Rick, doing them for free and filming them. People said he would go bankrupt. Competitors laughed. Even people who respected him thought it was the kind of idealistic mistake that shuts a young business down before it finds its footing. But Rick saw something they didn't. He saw people stranded in places where nobody would help them unless there was a guaranteed profit involved. And he saw something else. A chance to demonstrate, again and again, what kind of business he was actually building. So he did the recoveries. And he filmed them. One truck stuck in the mud led to another story. One family helped on the side of a remote road became content that showed the world exactly who Murphy's Diesel was. The videos spread because they were real. There was no polished production value, no scripted drama, no manufactured tension. People watching could see the genuine strain. The mud, the weather, the mechanical setbacks, the physical exhaustion, and then the real, unscripted relief when someone finally got free. That authenticity is almost impossible to fake, and audiences responded to it immediately. Viewers became subscribers. Subscribers became a real, engaged audience. That audience became a revenue stream through YouTube advertising. The advertising revenue made it possible to keep doing the free recoveries. The free recoveries created more content. The content built more audience. The cycle fed itself. Rick pushed the idea even further.